Hello and welcome to another episode of the Green Room Podcast. I am your co-host / producer, Andrew Kent, here alongside my two co-hosts, Mark DiGiovanni and Otto Keisker. As always, gentlemen, crazy weekend with college basketball and, of course, the disastrous Oscars last night. Were you guys able to digest everything over the weekend?
Andrew, I lost a lot of my bets over the weekend, so I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Last weekend never happened.
That is the opposite for me. I do not watch much basketball, but when I do, I watch and root for Villanova, put money on them the whole way, and I just keep on winning, baby. Let's go Wildcats.
Hey, you know what? This is the worst Final Four of all time. 4 blue bloods, 4 teams that have won probably combined 15 championships over the course of the last century. So at this point, I think I'm just going to boycott college basketball.
Yeah, and Andrew, not to mention the whole tournament's been rigged for Duke and Coach K. I mean, just go watch the Michigan State game. It's totally rigged. Even Arkansas that game was rigged too. It's rigged for Duke. It's bull crap.
No, the whole tournament.
I just wanted to see the Peacocks go a little bit further. It's not because of the Cinderella story. I could care less about that. I just wanted them to be in the final game, and before the team comes running out of the tunnel, they start to play the music, and Will Ferrell runs out, and he's like, "I'm a peacock. You gotta let me fly."
That would have been very creative. If the creative department for St. Peter's were that smart, they would have done that probably a week ago, because they didn't know they were going this far. So it would have been smart to utilize that while they could, at least after winning one game. Like, you get on that film right away at the round 32 and call Will Ferrell up. That's what you got to do. Wild weekend with college basketball. And, of course, we got college football still with all these prospects for the 2022 NFL draft. We are exactly 1 month away, gentlemen. Now, for me, I'm personally not as excited about this draft as I was about last year's draft, as there were more notable players that were going to be taken in the first round last year compared to this year. We know that the quarterback position has dropped off, but the cornerback position is looking mighty fine this year, as are many other defensive positions. But before we dive into this week's topic of the cornerback position, let's talk about how there are multiple teams this year that have first-round picks as of right now, and multiple teams that have multiple first-round picks. So we're looking at the Houston Texans, they have 2. The Jets, the Giants, the Packers, Kansas City all have 2 picks. And the Philadelphia Eagles, our team from the hometown, have 3 picks. So for both of you, this is a question for both. How do you guys think this will affect the draft this year, that so many teams have first-round picks this year, multiple first-round picks, that is? Otto, what are your thoughts?
It's going to be interesting. I've never seen it like this before. I think that it affects the draft in 2 ways. When you have a team that has multiple first-round picks, they have more ability to go best player available. So, when we talk about like teams that have a need, and quarterback's always the one that's talked about the most, you talk about teams that trade up to get a quarterback. Sometimes you can also bank on a team taking a certain position, and that may be bumping down the best player available down to the back end of the draft, right? As much as I don't like to admit to it, Dallas has been really good the last couple of years at taking what falls to them. And there's always one of those really good players that falls because teams that are at the top want to pick a certain position where they have a hole, things like that. But when you have all these teams that have multiple first-round picks, especially like Houston, the Giants, and the Jets that are at the top with multiple picks, they may address a need with one of them, but they have the ability and the flexibility with the other pick to go best available. So, when you think of like players that are in that range, Ahmad Gardner was a rumor today for the Giants and the Jets. He's going to be one of those top 5 players who could start to fall, and, with their second pick, they could take him. Kyle Hamilton's another one where maybe you'd saw him falling before, given the lack of importance that's perceived, at least in the league for the safety position. But when you have somebody that good, and you have 2 first-round picks, you may want to take him. And then the other thing with these teams that have multiple picks is that, yes, you will see them try to address a need with one of them probably. When we talk about two of the teams that have gained that second pick in the last couple weeks here through trades with Kansas City and Green Bay, both of them ended up trading away a receiver to get this first round pick. So they both have holes at that position now. So if you were a team where you were looking at receivers potentially falling to you in the early second round, things like that, you may want to be trading up now to get ahead of Kansas City and Green Bay, because it's more likely that that position starts to fall off the board at the back end of the first round than it was 2 weeks ago before these guys had multiple picks and had holes at that position. So that's kind of my thoughts on those guys having multiple picks there.
And Mark, do you have any comments on what Otto just said?
Yeah, I think it's also interesting too how a lot of teams, their picks are either back to back, like the Eagles have 15 and 16, and then Kansas City has a back to back pick, and then even the Giants, they have 5 and 7. So it's going to be interesting to see what those three teams do with those picks there, because you have even the Eagles, their third pick is 19. That's really close to 15 and 16. It's going to be interesting to see if Kansas City says, "Hey, look, we can trade up now. We have a back to back here at the back end of the draft. Let's go trade up." The Eagles can trade back. I mean, there's so many possibilities that can happen. I mean, even the Giants, like let's say Seattle calls up the Giants. Now the Giants be like, "Hey, look, we have, 5 and 7. We'll trade you 5 and move back to 9. Now we have 7 and 9." So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting possibilities that can happen. And then you have teams like Otto said, who just need everything, like the Lions, the Texans, who are just going to be like, "Hey, look, like we need literally every position, probably besides quarterback." So it'll be interesting to see what those two teams do as well, especially the Lions, because they have 2 and 32. So big disparity between their picks. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Detroit does.
Yeah, and Detroit as well, to your point, Mark, has 34 as well. So you could see them moving up maybe to get a receiver like we talked about ahead of Green Bay and Kansas City, maybe packaging those two picks or throwing one of those picks in a later second or a third to get ahead of those guys, given that, like you said, they're almost back-to-back picks there. So moving one doesn't hurt them as much. So, yeah, they're an interesting team to watch. You're right about that.
I certainly hope they don't pick a receiver, because I like Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially as the number one option there. Plus, it would be a terrible decision if they picked something like a quarterback. I think they just need to go pretty much anything but that position. But at the very least, for the Lions and the fans of Detroit, they have something to look forward to, because the only way you can go from here is up. So we'll see what they end up doing. But let's get back into the cornerback position. As I said, definitely one of the stronger positions this year at the draft. Let's just go through what we do every single week, do a position deep dive on this position, the cornerback. So, of course, let's start off with overall strength of the cornerback position. Mark, how would you rate this position compared to the other positions this year?
I think it's definitely one of the top positions this year, definitely in the top 5, if not in the top 3. I think there's a lot of guys on this list you haven't heard of on TV, and there's a reason because they are shut down corners. So yeah, I think it's really strong this year. I don't want to say any names yet, because I know I don't want to get into it, but I'm excited about this position, and I know the Eagles are in the market for a corner, so I'm gonna be interested to see what they do with their picks. So it just makes me excited.
Speaking of teams that could possibly use a cornerback, Otto, who are some teams that you think are on the market for that position?
Yeah, I mean, Mark noted the Eagles. They have a hole at the second corner. The biggest one, and I think the most obvious one right now, is the Patriots after losing J.C. Jackson in free agency. And then, of course, Tyreek Hill walks into the division as well. So I think the biggest hole it lies in New England. They're in a good spot to get one of these guys. And then there's those teams at the top, like Mark noted. It's going to be really interesting to see where the top 2 corners go inside the top 10, and whether or not the Jets are a team as well that kind of have a need everywhere, and corners one of those spots. The same division again as New England, where they got to cover Tyreek, Waddle, and Stephon Diggs. So those are some teams that I'm looking at in the cornerback market.
Mark, are there any other teams that Otto did not name that you think could really use a corner this year?
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends to see how the draft pans out. But yeah, the Patriots, I mean, they've been made a lot of questionable moves this offseason. So yeah, I think losing J.C. Jackson, I didn't think they were going to let him go, especially after they let Gilmore go. Figured you got to keep one or the other, and they just let both of them go. So I think that they need two guys really in New England. So I don't know what Belichick's doing, but he's got a plan and he's smarter than me. So I know that for sure.
All right, well, let's dive into the cornerback position this year. Both of you, as we always do every single week, we'll give your top 5 players at the position. Otto, lead us off this week.
Are we doing one at a time this week, Sven, or are we going 5 to 2?
We will do one at a time this week. I think for now on, we'll do 5 through 2 when we have 2 positions, which I think is only 1 or 2 more times. But then, of course, it makes it a little bit more eventful when we just go back and forth when we only have 1. Just a little more cinematic. So
I like it. You're the boss. All right, I'll dive in. My number 5 cornerback is Kair Elum from Florida this year. Really like this guy. Outside corner. He's one of the longer corners out of this year's draft at 6'1", 190. Really good cover corner. He's good in press man coverage. Loves to get up in people's face. He's physical at the bottom of the route, sometimes overly physical at the bottom of the route. And what I mean by that is when you're in your corner, your stance as a corner lined up on somebody, right? You don't want to shoot your hands too early, because if you miss, you start to fall forward and that receiver's gone behind you. You want to wait till he makes his move, then shoot your hand and push him off his route. He's really good at being physical, but every now and then he does shoot those hands too early, falls off the route. He's really comfortable in his back pedal, which I do like in that press man. He doesn't flip his hips too early. And he ran a 4.39 40 at the combine this year, which was phenomenal for a guy at 6'1". So that explains a little bit of why he's comfortable in that back pedal, is he knows he's got the speed if he starts to flip those hips a little late. Good hips, not great hips, but pretty fluent in the hips. Does a good job of route recognition and zone. And both breaking on the ball and then understanding the concepts that they're trying to throw at him when they're trying to run two patterns through his zone. As I noted at the bottom of the route, sometimes he shoots the hands too early. Probably my biggest knock on him is that he's handsy at the top of the route. If you turn on his Florida tape against Mechie, or Alabama tape against Mechie at the end of the year, you'll see some times where he gets beat a little bit off the line, and then Mechie goes to break it off and come back to the ball, and he's kind of beat, so he throws the hand out there, draws pass interference penalties every now and then. So it needs to clean that up at the next level. We know refs are flag happy to throw that. And then the other thing that I have kind of as a negative on Elum is he's not the most willing tackler. So you'd like to see him get a little bit more physical, although he does seem to set the edge and force guys in, which is a corner's job. So I really do like Kair Elum, though. I think that he's one of these guys where given his size, that he's going to play outside corner for you. And if he's in the right fit where he's pretty much zone and press man, he's going to be a really good corner at the next level.
What about you, Mark? Who is your number 5 overall prospect at cornerback?
Yeah, 5. I kept going between 5 and 6 for me, but I went with Trent McDuffie from Washington. The Huskies have had a great history of defensive backs playing in the NFL, and Trent McDuffie seems to be like he's going to be, in that first round conversation. It's incredible how the Huskies have just built this tradition of defensive backs. I don't know why, but it just seems to be DBU up there in the Pacific Northwest. But Trent McDuffie, a lot of people love this guy. I mean, if you read ESPN, Pro Football Focus, CBS, NBC, they all have this guy as the top corner. Now, I don't have him as the best corner because of his size, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he plays bigger than his size, and he is just a ballsy player. He goes up for every jump ball. He's fast, he's athletic, he's quick, he's a ball hawk. The one thing I don't like, he's not too physical. He's more like, I'm just going to catch you instead of, playing hands on the receiver, like Otto was noting earlier. Not a not a great tackler either. But one thing I did write down when I was watching some of his highlight tape was that he did have a couple of forced fumbles when he came off this corner blitz. He just got crazy speed and comes off that edge quick. So I got him at 5. I think he's a little overhyped, but I really like him as a prospect. And I think, if you can get him at the right price in the draft and you can develop him, I think he'll be a very good corner at the next level.
Number 4 for you, Otto?
Yeah, number 4 for me is Trent McDuffie. Agree with everything that Mark said. You hear a lot of times when the corner position's talked about guys having twitch or being twitched up, right? And it's just that quick movement, right? Trent McDuffie is the most twitched up corner in this year's draft. He didn't run the fastest 40 at a 4.44, but the movement in short spaces is fantastic. To Mark's point, he doesn't get handsy at the bottom of the route. But he has really good hips, and that's why he doesn't get handsy. He's comfortable. Like, he doesn't have to put his hands on you, right? He's going to let you make that first move, and then he's going to break. He doesn't feel like he has to blow you off the ball because he has that reaction time. So I like that, right? Like I said, he flips his hips really well, breaks on the ball really, really well. He's great in those short spaces. You'll watch him on some routes where he takes, that one step back off the line, and especially on those 3rd and 2 situations where a guy's kind of giving you a shake route, he can go in or out. He's trying to get a read on the corner. McDuffie doesn't bite either way. He waits for you to make your move, and then he goes. So I really, really like that. Again, he has really good eyes in zone and in off man as well. Good play recognition again. I already noted, breaks really well on the ball. The tackling for me was one of the question marks. The first couple times I watched him on film was like, there were so many plays where he just didn't look like he tried to tackle. Like, the play came near him and he was just kind of like Cam Newton in that Super Bowl. Like, I don't want the ball. But then you watch him on some plays, and like you'll see him on in one of the game films, I forget which one, he's on a backside blitz. They throw a screen out to the far side and he runs it all the way down, makes a great hit. So I like the physicality when he does want to tackle, but sometimes he doesn't tackle. And so that's kind of a knock on him for me. And then the other thing Mark already noted, it's, with his size, I think he's overhyped. I don't think he, at that size, should be one of the guys that's the top at this position. I see him as a slot corner, right? As a slot corner, you have to have that twitch, right? And be able to stick with those shifty guys on those short routes. That's what he does best from what I see. And at 5'11", that's kind of more the size for him as slot corner. And I just don't think that you take a slot corner in the top 15 picks. So that's why I have him here at number 4 in terms of the cornerback position, and where I see him, falling is the end of the first round, early second, probably.
Bounce off that. Mark, who is your number 4?
Yeah, my number 4, I got Roger Mccreary from the University of Auburn Tigers. I feel like I watched this guy all year last year. He played great against Penn State early in the year when he locked up Jahan Dotson. And at the end of the year, he played unbelievable against John Mechie and Jamison Williams in the Iron Bowl. Just an incredible corner. Not a great physical corner. He kind of reminds me of like a Stephon Gilmore. He's not going to light you up, but he is going to lock you down. This guy, wherever the football is, he is an absolute ball hawk. And that's what I love about him. His PFF grade this year was 90, which is second best in the country. And like I said, I feel like I watched this guy all year playing at Auburn. The dude is just incredible. I think he's a really great talent. Pretty big guy too, 6 foot, 200 pounds. He'll be a really good outside corner for somebody. And he may not go in the first round, but he might be a great day 2 pick. And especially with his experience in the SEC, going against Treylon Burks, Jamison Williams, John Mechie, you got a really good corner coming your way if you pick him.
Otto, who is your number 3?
Yeah, number 3 for me is Andrew Booth, the corner out of Clemson. And I really, really like this kid. 6 foot, 195, 3 picks last year. He's just an all-around good corner. Really sticky in man coverage. He's good in press man coverage and off man. They did really kind of a little bit of both. He played more press man than other corners. on the team, which tells me that that's where he's more comfortable, and he's really good there. But I thought he was good in both press and off man. He's physical during the route. It sometimes does get too handsy at the top of the route. So that's one of my knocks on him. But he has really fluent hips. Again, he's comfortable in his back pedal, right? And he waits until the last second to flip his hips, which is huge when you talk about like an 11-yard comeback route or a 10-yard out, right? When you're covering these speed guys where you see these corners flip their hips at 7 yards because they know they got to run with them. And as soon as they flip their hips, the receiver breaks it off, right? He's very comfortable in that back pedal. He waits until the last second. So I love that, right? He's also patient in flipping his hips on those underneath choice routes, like I just noted with Mcduffie. So, you know, he likes being up in people's face. He's able to play that. That's your short yardage game. And then flipping your hips on those longer plays, that's your first, second down coverage. So, you know, this is a guy who you're comfortable with in all situations. Not the best reaction in zone. He is good at route recognition. It's just a step slow on his reaction after the ball's out. But he's, you know, his eyes are in the right place as far as recognizing. And then he does a great job of rallying up and tackling. He's a physical corner. He wants to be involved in the run game and the underneath passing game, right? So we love that. And not only is he physical when he gets to the ball carrier, he's physical getting off blocks. I mean, you watch this guy, he like throws receivers on their backs out of the play. And I just love that stuff. One knock that teams may have on him is as far as the physicality goes, believe it was not this last season, but the season before, he did get into a fight and get ejected during a game. But I'm going to be honest, that's not a huge knock for me. I kind of love it. Gets the whole team pumped up, you know? But really, really good, smart player. The other thing that I like is he sets the edge well in the run game and forces everything inside. And just, you know, the physicality and the way that he plays with a chip, seems like a chip on his shoulder at all times, like I noted, whether it's getting off a block, making a tackle, in press man and off man zone, he's just all around good at really everything. And, you know, he's got the size to be an outside corner and even bump inside if you need him to. So I think Andrew Booth is going to be a really good player at the next level that could be good in a lot of different schemes.
Mark, number 3.
Yeah, number 3. I guess I'm circling the wagons here with Otto, but I got Kair Elum from Florida. So I'm sticking here at the SEC. And yeah, like Otto said, a lot of great physical traits about Elum. Has really good hips, really good physical corner. But yeah, he does get physical at times. Like I wrote down here, he did draw 7 penalties this year. So if he can limit the penalties, he'll be okay. Yeah, he only allowed 19 catches for 190 yards. So he is a true, once again, shutdown corner. And he loves contact. And that's what I love about it. I love corners who just love contact because in a way it throws off the receiver. You throw contact at the receiver, gets him off his route, gets him out of rhythm. I really like it from this kid, Elum. I know Otto talked about him a lot, so I won't harp on him too much. So we can move on. But I really like Elum.
All right, Otto, give us your number 2 cornerback.
This guy, I honestly thought about not even putting in here. And it's because of the way that he's played the last 2 years and the way that he just doesn't even look like he wants to be there. I think Mark and Andrew know that I don't really have time for anybody who just decides they don't want to play. Not a big Jason Peters fan because I think he doesn't show up when his team's losing. And so it was hard for me to keep this guy in the top 5. But when you turn on this guy's tape in 2019, it's incredible. The guy is stuck like glue to everyone. And then you watch the practice film against Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson when they were at LSU with him. It's crazy. So Derek Stingley at number 2 here, I can't keep him out. Even though I really don't like the attitude the last 2 years, as far as a player goes, he's arguably the stickiest corner in this draft when he wants to be there and he really cares. Absolutely fantastic in press man. The most fluent hips in the draft. The guy goes from 2 set feet squared up in press man, and you break on a crossing route straight across his face, and his hips flip so fast that right leg crosses his body and he's full sprint as soon as you get off the ball. I mean, the hips, it doesn't even look like he's flipping his hips. It's that fluent. It's fantastic. He's not handsy at the bottom of the route, although he puts his hand on you once you make that first break, which again, that's the technique you want. Once he makes the break, you give him a push, you get him off that route, get him away from where that QB is supposed to hit him. And then really, really good vision and off man as well. He uses the sidelines really well on go routes, which the sideline's your friend, right, as a corner. And then the other thing is his eyes in man coverage are textbook on go routes, right? They teach you your eyes are on the hips of the receiver off the ball. You keep with the hips. That's hips don't lie, right? So you stick with the hips, take them downfield. Again, you're looking at the hips until they get about past that 11-yard spot where they're going to, that's really the last part where they would break off for that route, right? And then your hands on the hip, and your eyes go from his hips to his eyes. And when his eyes get big, you turn your head and put your hand up to the ball, right? And we see so many of these corners that don't have their eyes in the right place on the receiver's eyes, which means they don't know when the ball's coming. They don't turn their head, and then they run through them and they get the pass interference, and it's just as good as giving up a catch, right? This guy's eyes are perfect. He goes hips to eyes to ball, turns his head. It's textbook. I love it. He's a willing tackler in the run game and the underneath passing game. Again, I just, the attitude for me, I mean, this guy could tumble in the draft, and they're talking about that. He wasn't at the combine or didn't work out at the combine, and that was supposedly because of an injury or something. But the last 2 years, it just looks like he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to tackle. He doesn't want to cover. He kind of showed up for the Alabama game 2 years ago because he got to play against Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. But, I think teams are struggling with, do I want this guy around? Because if we start to have a losing season, he's not even going to show up and play the game. And that's not what we want in the locker room. So, as far as the on the field talent goes, this guy is lights out. If you want to see it, look up the 2019 SEC title game against Georgia. He literally is the receiver's shadow. But it's going to be interesting to see how these teams take, the attitude and the issues over the last 2 years. He's one of the most interesting stories in the draft this year.
Well, what an incredible analysis by the Otto Keisker right there for his number 2 overall prospect. Mr. Mark, I want to hear your follow-up. Who is your number 2?
Yeah, I think Otto and I are going to piggyback each other here for 2 and 1 because I also have Derek Stingley Jr. I'm a huge fan. I think what Otto said, you get that experience in practice. I mean, look who he was going up against: Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall Jr. every day in practice. I mean, what better practice do you get than those top 3 guys who are just destroying the NFL right now? I mean, Justin Jefferson's killing it. Jamar Chase just playing the Super Bowl. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then obviously going up against Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle on Alabama, and then not to mention all the other receivers in the SEC. But yeah, I think Stingley, big physical corner. But like Otto said, he opted out in 2020 because of COVID. Could have come and played this year, but said he was hurt. So was he hurt? Was he not? That's going to be the question. And I don't know if it had anything to do with like Coach O, maybe being there one more year. And I don't know, maybe maybe he didn't like Coach O. I don't know what his deal was. I don't think anyone knows. And then, I was going to say to Otto's point, no one knows what happened at the combine. Is he still really hurt? But the talent is there. Like Otto said, his hips are just insanely quick. I mean, just go and watch his 2019 tape. Nobody threw his way. Only a 41 completion percentage when the ball is thrown in his direction, which, I mean, he's a shutdown corner. I mean, he's basically Jalen Ramsey of college. The problem is, like Otto said, where is he going to get drafted? The talent is there, but is he he's like a Jay Cutler? Jay Cutler had the $10 million arm, 10-cent brain. It's kind of the same thing with Derek Stingley. He's got, all the talent in the world, but a 10-cent brain. So we'll have to see where that lands him, whether he's a day 1, day 2, or day 3 pick.
It's always a little tricky when you have a player that doesn't have the best attitude, as we see across all sports. So maybe it could be a bang for the buck if he gets taken later on in the draft. But maybe somebody will take a chance on him early because of just how talented the guy is, especially if you guys ranking him number 2 overall. And with that being said, Otto, who is your number 1 cornerback prospect for this year?
I think this one's obvious. All right, actually, I already said his name on here today, but it's Ahmad Gardner. We've talked about him on past shows. Can't get enough of this guy. Just lights out over the last couple of years. I mean, absolute stud. Everything you want an outside corner. 6'3", got the length, 190. I mean, I guess you could say skinny if you wanted to nitpick him, right? Runs a 4.4 140. Oh, okay. All right. 3 picks last year. I don't know, didn't give up more than 13 yards to a guy he covered all year last year, never gave up a touchdown pass his whole college career. The guy's phenomenal. He's fantastic in press man. Great in his back pedal, totally comfortable. Again, he's one of those guys who doesn't shoot his hands too early, waits till the break, then pushes him off the route, flips his hips. I mean, really, really well, not to Stingley's level. And it's a little bit harder to flip those hips when you're 6'3" versus 6 foot with the longer legs, but he flips them pretty darn well. And as soon as he flips them, he's in top gear going 4.41 speed, same way Stingley is. So he can stick with you, right? And that's huge. You see on some of these game tapes, guys want to run straight across the field with him. Maybe that's the best way to get away from him. That's one of the harder routes to cover because you got to follow him all the way across the field. Normally there's some crossers coming. He sticks with them, right? That 4.41 speed, those long legs get moving. No bite on double moves in zone, which I absolutely love, right? And in off man. In zone, what I also love about him is you'll see him when he's got the flats, right? He'll stay away from the receiver a little bit. He'll see that QB start to get under pressure, and that QB starts to pull his head down and look over to his dump off that's in that flat. And Gardner gives him like 3 yards. And you see a couple times on tape where that quarterback's just about to go there, and they have that moment where they're like, oh my God, he's baiting me. And they throw it away. And he's totally baiting him, which goes to speak to the confidence that he has in his ability to break on the ball, right? And you just love to see that in a corner. That's Asante Samuel all day, right? We all saw it. He's got that great break to make picks underneath as well as to go up and tackle. And then he's a phenomenal tackler, and he wants to tackle people. He's physical in the run game. He sets an edge and he hits people when he gets there. I absolutely love it. That's one of the things that excites me the most is the way he hits. If you go back and watch that tape from the college football playoff against Alabama, multiple times where he's making tackles around the line of scrimmage, sometimes even behind the line of scrimmage because he breaks on a bubble screen, goes right past the guy blocking him and makes a tackle. Just an all-around great player, good instincts, everything. And then we've talked about, just the kid that he is. Comes into the combine in every single interview in a full suit, and talks about how he grew up in Detroit and hasn't smoked a thing or drank any alcohol in his life. So I just love it. And then the last thing is you got to have swag as a corner. You think of the best one ever, Dion Sanders, and they asked the kid at the combine, they said, you've never given up a touchdown in your college career to anybody that you've covered. And he said, yeah, and I don't have any plans of giving one up in the NFL either. So you know what? Go get it, Ahmad Gardner. And somebody's going to get this guy in the top 10. And I just pray to God that it's not the Giants with one of those 2 picks.
Okay. And Mark, who is your number 1 cornerback?
I think everyone in America can guess who I'm taking number 1. But yeah, it's Ahmad Sauce Gardner. I can't get enough of them. We love sauce, pasta sauce, pizza sauce, barbecue sauce, Worcestershire sauce, whatever type of sauce. We love it. Hot sauce. That's what this guy makes me remind. He's a spicy player. Like Otto said, this kid loves contact. He's going to hit receivers at the line of scrimmage. He's going to blow up the run game behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to sack the quarterback. This kid has everything you want in a corner. Like Otto said, the length, he's 6'3". I mean, he can guard anybody in the league. I mean, you could even stick Calvin Johnson on him. I still think Ahmad Gardner's shutting that guy down. It's unbelievable. Love the kid a lot. And I think, like Otto said, I think he's definitely – there's no way he falls out of the top 10. if he does fall in the top 10, there's going to be a team trading up for a corner. I know that sounds really weird, but hey, if he slips out of that top 10 and I'm at like pick, 15, Howie, make a call. Make a call. Make the call up.
You know that Howie's not going to make the call, or if he does, I don't know. I mean,
He'll take all of our picks and be like, you know what? I'm actually going to trade all of our picks back. So now we're going to take, we're going to have 30, 31, and 32. That's what we'll have.
All right. No picking on Howie Roseman. He did interview Sauce this week.
He did. That's what I'm saying. If he slips out of the top 10, your team at 15, make the call.
I'd go get him at 8. Jeez, I'm Crow. He's that good. I'd go get him at 8.
Yeah. I don't think there's any way he slips out of. I don't know how, like you said, Otto, especially if the Giants are 7-5. I think, yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who trades up for a quarterback. I mean, that's really what's going to happen. That's what we need to happen is someone calls the Giants or calls the Jets and just jumps up for somebody they're in love with. But I don't think it's going to happen, but that's what we need to happen.
Mark, what would you have done if Howie traded all 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson like 2 weeks
I would have been livid. I would have been livid. I probably would have moved up to Buffalo, New York, and been like, you know what? Where's the table at? I need to jump through a table.
Oh, my God. Well, I think the only time one of you guys had your top prospect at a position, it was running back, had somebody at number 1, and the other person didn't have that person even in their top 5. That was running back when Otto had Kyron Williams from Notre Dame, and Mark, I think you had him outside of the top 5. So that was the only time, but it feels to me like a lot of times you guys pretty much agree because these guys are definitely consensus top overall at their positions, which makes sense, especially when you're picking guys from all these big 5, Power 5 schools, whatever. So, and as always, as we do every single week, let's talk about who could potentially be a sleeper at the cornerback position this year. Mark, who do you think is one that really comes to mind right now at cornerback?
Yeah, I'm going to continue to go with the Washington Huskies hype train here. I'm going to go with Trent McDuffie's running mate, Kyler Gordon. He's a little bit bigger, 6 foot 200, a little bit bigger than McDuffie. But what I really liked about him is that he could play both corner positions. He can play on the outside and play in the slot. Very versatile player. And I think Kyler Gordon was a little bit better than Trent McDuffie. So I think someone can get a really good corner in Kyler Gordon. And like I said, the Huskies just have that history of having a lot of DBs.
What about you, Otto?
Sleeper for me at this position is Martin Emerson, Mississippi State. Again, outside corner, 6'2", so one of the longer guys behind Sauce. I turned on the tape of this guy against Alabama. He's playing against Mechie and Williams. They were both healthy for that game, and he did a great job covering both of them. So that's when I got excited about this guy. The only routes he really gave up to them were those long routes where they break it off at 11 yards, which, he had already flipped his hips. And against those two with their quickness is almost unguardable routes. You got to respect the deep ball. But other than that, he stuck with him. He sticks with him across the field. He's physical with him. Really got physical with Jamison Williams and seemed to really throw him off his game. So I loved that. He's going to play outside corner given the length. He plays better in press man than off man, likes to shoot those hands. He's patient in off man and doesn't bite on the double moves, which I like. They tried to get Mechie with him on back-to-back plays actually in that game. It didn't bite. Flips his hips pretty well. Like I said, physical with the hands, good eyes in zone, and breaks on the ball really, really well, which I really like. And he's physical as well. When he's breaking to get into the run game or the underneath passing game, really physical. So you got to love that. And then he turns his head well in coverage and uses the sideline well, which I noted that with Stingley. He does a really good job of that as well. So Martin Emerson's a guy, sleeper. Keep your eyes out because he was able to stick with 2 of the top receivers in this year's class. So gonna be fun to watch the next level.
Going right back to you, Otto, who's somebody that comes to mind that would fit perfectly with the Eagles and that the Eagles actually have a chance to draft at cornerback?
Oh, we have a chance to draft, so you're not going to let me take Sauce. No. I mean, I've started to see in mocks that Stingley could fall. I don't think he's going to fall. I think there's too many GMs that don't care about attitude. They think that they just need the best player available, and he's that good. So he's not going to be there. I think the Eagles need to address this hole with one of their 3 first-round picks, and the guy to me who's going to fall right in that range is Andrew Booth. I already talked about it. He fits every single scheme. So for the Eagles, he's really great because, they love to play that zone defense. It drives us all nuts, and he's pretty good in zone. And then they claim that they're going to get more physical now that they've got their blitzing linebacker with Hassan Reddick. And that's going to allow them to play more man. Plus, if you add Booth and you are comfortable with Slay and Maddox and Booth, then you can play more man coverage. So I think Andrew Booth is one of these guys that can play multiple schemes. Jonathan Gannon wants to play multiple schemes. You also have to think, if you're thinking prospectively with the Eagles, that Gannon has been talked about with head coaching jobs for some reason. I don't know why. And so if he's gone next year, you're going to bring in a different defensive coordinator, may have a different scheme. So I like Booth's versatility that he can play in a lot of different schemes. I love the physicality. Philadelphia will love this guy. So Andrew Booth would be a great fit with one of those 3 first-round picks for the Birds.
What about you, Mark? Thoughts on Booth as well? Do you think he's the right choice right there? The almost best option, honestly, if he's available compared to the other guys, because as Otto was saying, probably not realistic that we'll see Sauce as an Eagle.
Yeah, we're gonna have to be saying our fathers if Ahmad Gardner is gonna come to Philadelphia. I like Booth a lot, but I think a guy who could fit well for the Eagles is Roger Mccreary, just because a little bit older, is a senior coming out this year, and I think they kind of I think it's good for him to come here. I think the Eagles could use a little bit of an older cornerback. Obviously, I think he's still young enough. He's only 22 years old. He gets to learn under Darius Slay, and it seems like the Eagles like to put their corners in one-on-one situations, and this kid's clearly fine with that, going up against one-on-one Jahan Dotson, John Mechie, Traylon Burks, and some of the other top guys in the SEC. So I think Mccreary would fit really well with us too.
And then, as we do every single week too, who is one general sleeper that you have this week? Mark, let's get back to you.
Yeah, I keep seeing this guy pop up, and it's Kirby Joseph from the University of Illinois. And I'm like, Illinois, who the hell do they have, right? Like, I mean, they're like the butt end of the Big Ten every year, right? And every sport pretty much. But Kirby Joseph, I mean, he's 6 foot, but he has a wingspan of 6'8", and he plays safety. I mean, he is literally all over the field, intercepting guys like it's nobody's business. I mean, a lot of guys have him as a day 2 pick. I think that's probably where he'll be. I think he'll be an early second rounder. I mean, it's clear to see. Like, you just put up YouTube Kirby Joseph, and you're like, how have I not seen this guy? It's because Illinois is so bad every year that they don't put him on national TV. But seriously, do yourself a favor watching Kirby Joseph tape. It is unbelievable. I mean, he's literally like Giannis Antetokounmpo out there playing center field. It's insane.
What about you, Otto? Who is your sleeper of the week in the general field of players?
I'm going to stick with corner because I just love talking about this position, if you can't tell. Alante Taylor from Tennessee is another sleeper that I have at this position. 6 foot, 200 pounds, gives him that versatility to play the inside or the outside. Ran a 4.36 40 at the combine. Really good in press man, comfortable with shooting his hands, doesn't shoot him too early, right? So I love that. He's good at flipping his hips. He waits to flip his hips because he knows he's got the speed. One knock is that at the top of the route, he tends to give up a little bit too much separation on some routes, especially in breaking routes. So, I don't love that. Really good eyes, though, and reaction in zone. He's incredibly aggressive as a player. As a tackler, he's a really good tackler, but sometimes that aggressiveness, he flies around so fast that he overruns tackles, which, that will drive you nuts at times. But I'd rather see a guy doing that than not caring. So, at this guy, to me, when you talk about a sleeper that you're going to get in the middle rounds, one, you want a guy that could potentially be a guy who starts for your team, right? And has the talent to do that. You see the tools with this kid, the size, the speed, everything. He could be a starter in the NFL and a good one. But then the other thing is those guys have to be able to play special teams and have that want to. And when you see a guy that flies around, loves to make plays, wants to be involved in every play, he's going to make way for your team on special teams, going to be good in the locker room. So this is a guy that, I would watch for in the middle rounds, Alante Taylor.
Finally, draft crush of the week. Otto, we'll stick with you again. Who is your draft crush of the week?
Keeping it in the secondary, but not corner. Jalen Petrie, the safety from Baylor. We already talked about him earlier on our episode where we broke down the safety position. But I just love this guy. I started to watch him before the Senior Bowl, and people had him in the 3rd or 4th round. And now he's in the 2nd round because of how he showed out in the Senior Bowl. I had a 2nd round grade on him before that. The instincts just jump off the charts when you watch this guy. He might have the best football instincts in the entire draft, right? Phenomenal ball skills, a number of interceptions every single year he was at Baylor. He gets interceptions on underneath routes because he plays as a box safety sometimes, and then he picks the ball off in coverage and as a deep safety. He's got the versatility to play every single role as a safety, cover slot receivers, cover tight ends, cover backs out of the backfield. And then he's the best blitzing safety in the draft. A number of sacks last year. He's a nightmare to try to block for running backs. So I just love this kid. Like I said, the instincts and then the quickness just make him so tough in the pass game, the run game, everything, and the versatility. It's just phenomenal. You can use him in so many different ways. He's going to be a Swiss Army knife at the next level, and there's going to be so many defensive coordinators that want to get their hands on this guy just because of the football IQ and the versatility.
Going back to you, Mr. Mark, who is your draft crush of the week?
I mean, for me, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Malik the Freak Willis, baby. I mean, this dude's stock is rising. I mean, if you're going to put money in someone, if you could, put your money in Malik the Freak Willis. I mean, this guy is shooting up draft boards like nobody's business. The arm talent is unbelievable, incredible athletic ability. I don't know if you saw him at the combine, but he is throwing 70-yard bombs just like Josh Allen. I love Malik. Great kid. Went to Liberty. Great school. Can't say enough about him. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I think some team is going to trade up for this guy. I think he's just an untapped potential. Probably is going to sit out this year, which is fine. Needs to learn. Very raw prospect, but I mean, the arm talent is just incredible.
I'm surprised, Mark, that you went right to Malik and didn't have you haven't once picked Desmond Ridder, your number 1 QB, as your draft crush of the week. That is. I don't
need to. I don't even need to.
Can I just jump in here for a second on Malik Willis?
Yes.
Can I just jump in here? Didn't you have him at number 4?
Yeah, but his stock is
Didn't
rising.
you say knock on him for Auburn and all this? You had all these knocks on him, and now he's your crush of the week. And you're talking about how
he's the highest riser. He's the highest riser.
I turned on ESPN. I turned on NFL Network after the combine, and everybody showed that bomb where he held the ball and he threw it 70 yards or whatever, and he hit the guy in stride. Yeah. You know what they didn't show? All the underneath routes where he threw the ball 5 yards over the receiver's head, right? This guy is as erratic as can be. Yes, he has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this year's draft. Not doubting it. I will not argue that at all. This kid, I mean, the athletic ability is off the charts. But I continue to see this guy, and everybody just wants to talk about it. All these scouts are like, oh my God, look at that talent. And the coaches are like, I can refine him. I can coach anybody. It's the typical thing where it's so much about a guy's ceiling. But he is as erratic of a quarterback as I have seen. And you are taking a huge gamble to go after this guy. And to me, the only way I'm taking him in the first round is if I do have that setup that you talked about, Mark, where he is sitting the whole first year behind a veteran.
Yeah.
I'm not putting him in Seattle, and I'm not putting him in Pittsburgh where he's playing right away.
Well, Pittsburgh just signed Trubisky, so even if Pittsburgh goes up again, they'll at least start Trubisky the year. He's literally Trey Lance. He'll be like Trey Lance. I think he maybe need to sit 2 years like Trey Lance. I think it's just gonna be beneficial. I mean, that's probably what's gonna happen to Lance. I mean, when he played this year, I mean, you can just tell he is just not ready to play. I think having another year behind Garoppolo will be beneficial. And remember, Malik Willis, he has connections to the Steelers. The Steelers did sign Trubisky for 2 years. So, I mean, he could also be sitting for 2 years. I'm right with you, Otto. I'm just saying his stock is rising higher than any other player in this draft right now.
I still don't think that Trubisky is the veteran necessarily that I want him to sit behind. When I think of like Alex Smith, who Mahomes sat behind, that was like the perfect storm, right? When I think about Pittsburgh, 1, not an offensive-minded head coach. 2, do I really think Mitch Trubisky should be the guy grooming my young star quarterback? I don't think that. So I agree. He could sit there for a year behind him. You're right. Trubisky signed and they could move forward with him. I just think like this guy to me, because he is so raw and there are so many negatives to go with the positives, like you noted on the earlier episode, leaving Auburn, right? And then, he needs to learn how to go through his reads and not tuck and run. He needs to learn how to not take hits, all these different things. He needs to be in the perfect situation, right, to succeed, like so many other QBs in this year's draft because of the class that we have. So when I see him, and this is towards everyone that has this guy just soaring up boards, because Mark, you're right, he's going crazy up the boards, right? Pump the brakes. Stop watching the highlight film on him and watch the full game film, because the highlight film, you think he's Michael Jordan. But watch the full game film, and there's a lot of time and work that's going to be needed to put in to make him succeed at the next level.
Yeah, and that's interesting about Pittsburgh too, because Tomlin, obviously defensive guy, and I mean, yeah, you really want to, like you said, Trubisky has went to the playoff. He did go to the playoffs twice, but he's not like a leader or like an Alex Smith who was an absolute leader of men, or like a Jimmy Garoppolo who's a leader. Mitchell Trubisky doesn't command that type of respect. So I think like you said, if he can go to a team like, I don't know, maybe like Tampa Bay and learn under Brady for a year, I don't think Tampa Bay is going to take a quarterback. I'm just saying that you would need to go to a spot like that where a veteran quarterback is who's been there, done that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. And I mean, the quarterback carousel has just been incredible this offseason. I don't think I've seen an offseason where it was like 6 quarterbacks traded. It's been unbelievable.
Well,
yeah,
I must say this has been a very satisfying finish to this week's episode. Before we end the episode, I just want to ask one question. And Mark kind of got a little hint of this question before the show started, but who do you guys think slaps harder, Will Smith or the Cowboys defense? Otto, I want to hear your thoughts.
It's not the Cowboys defense.
Oh man, but you don't like Will Smith either, so that's kind of like a little dilemma there, I guess.
It's hard. I don't know on that one. Will Smith slaps. The Cowboys defense doesn't hit, but you know what? Will Smith, he should give Juwan Howard a call and offer him some slapping lessons.
Yeah, honestly, I actually completely forgot about Juwan Howard. Mark, do you have an answer to the question?
I mean,
where would you go?
Dallas doesn't tackle. All they do is slap. That's all they do is they go, "Come on, guys. Come on, what you gonna do?" They don't tackle. I mean, maybe besides Micah Parsons, but I mean, go down their defense. Who's a heavy hitter on that defense? I mean, seriously, just go down that defense. Who's hitting you heavy besides Micah Parsons? You think what's the guy's name? Chidozie Awuzie? Think that guy's gonna come down and rail you? No. All that guy does is throw his shoulder and miss. Swing and a miss. That's what he is. That's like half their defense is just swing and a miss. I mean, have you watched any of their games? They're giving up like 40 points a game. They don't tackle anybody. Also, they're as fake as that slap too. That was a complete setup. You can't tell me otherwise. That was a complete setup. No one stopped Will Smith from going on stage. It's like Dallas defense. They're just pretend. It's all pretend. It's a fugazi.
Well, I mean, I think the part with him going on stage, they probably thought, oh, this is gonna be a great moment where they like have some great comedic timing or something, but then ended up going sideways very fast. And I was sitting there just, I mean, I don't even watch the Oscars anymore, even though I'm a massive movie fan. But just throw it on. Perfect timing, baby. I mean,
wait, well, here's my question. I think Otto will appreciate this. Hey, Otto, where was David Spade, Adam Sandler, Kevin James, and Rob Schneider? Where were they to back up Chris Rock? Where were they to back up?
I will say, you're absolutely right. It would have been great if they came flying out. I was not watching it. Some coworkers told me about it this morning, and I watched the video. But I will give Chris Rock some credit. I thought he handled it incredibly well. And what he said afterwards continued to, keep it light. And by the way, he didn't go down. So, major points there for not going down. But I thought Chris Rock handled it very well. But yeah.
Crazy stuff. Yeah. Even if it wasn't Kevin James and David Spade coming to his side, or maybe even like Mike Myers, or any of those guys from Shrek, Cameron Diaz or Antonio Banderas, they could have all been there helping out Donkey. Come on, you can't do him like that. Oh wait, that's Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
I get him all mixed up.
Cut that whole segment.
I was waiting for Otto to say something like, wrong guy.
Yeah, the funniest thing is I always got those two mixed up.
Well, it's because Chris Rock played the zebra.
Movie guy.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, whatever.
He played the zebra in Madagascar, I think it was.
If you want to throw this on TikTok, go for it. But I've done that before, though. I mixed the two up.
Just cut it out.
Murphy,
just cut it out.
Yeah, just cut it.
Cut it out. Nobody will know.
Nah, we're good. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching the Green Room Podcast. Of course, as always, this has been presented by Andrew Kent, your producer / co-host, as well as my two co-hosts, Mark DiGiovanni and Otto Keisker. We will see you all next episode. Thanks again for watching.